The palace was burning when Queen Sareveth landed. Not literally. The Valorian royal compound did not burn. Its walls built from stone coral harvested from the deep volcanic reefs of the Aelith Sea, impervious to flame. But the emergency lights were screaming crimson across every corridor window, and the sound that reached her through the shuttle's hull was not the polite silence of a functioning palace. It was chaos. It was breaking glass and shouted commands, and something else, something low and guttural and fierce that she could not immediately identify. She was off the ramp before her escort could form around her. "My queen, wait." She did not wait. A Valorian queen's instincts were not gentle things. They were sharpened over millennia of contested succession, of court knives and poison treaties, and the particular brutality that came from ruling a species that still remembered the old wars. Sareveth had claws. She had speed. She had the kind of fury that only a mother returning to a burning home could manufacture. She swept through the outer corridor and found her first body. Two of them, actually. Palace guards, her guards, in royal azure armor, laid flat across the marble floor. Not dead. She checked, because she had to. Stunned. Unconscious. Whatever had hit them had been clean and fast. A third guard was conscious, barely, propped against the wall with one hand pressed to her ribs. Sareveth was at her side in an instant. "Report," she said, and her voice was the kind of calm that comes out the other side of terror. "The Drevithi delegation," the guard rasped. They had weapons hidden inside the ceremonial wrappings. "When the wing was cleared for your children's evening meal, they moved. They took the inner hall." "They have." She stopped, winced. "Your children are in the inner hall, my queen." Sareveth was already moving. She heard it before she saw it. The inner hall was a large, domed room used for family gatherings. Low tables, cushioned platforms, walls hung with woven tapestries from the 7 provinces. It was a soft room, a private room. The kind of place she had chosen specifically because her children could relax there without the weight of court formality pressing down on them. It was not soft now. She came through the side archway and stopped, because what she saw demanded a moment of processing. The 3 Drevithi agents, she recognized them now, the false diplomats with their hard eyes and 2 careful smiles, had clearly expected this to be simple. They had stunners drawn. 2 of them were pointing at her children, her 4 young ones huddled together on one of the cushioned platforms, the eldest clutching the youngest against her chest with a kind of desperate calm that made Sareveth's heart tear. But the 3rd Drevithi agent was not pointing his stunner at her children. He was on the floor, and standing between her children and the remaining 2 agents was Marcus. Marcus Webb, her human servant, hired from the Terran Labor Exchange 14 months ago to assist with household management and, at her second daughter's insistence, to read stories in his interesting alien accent 3 evenings a week. He was 31 years old, medium height, with brown hair that was currently quite disheveled. He was holding a serving tray in one hand and a broken decorative urn in the other, and he was bleeding from a cut above his left eye. He was also standing in a way that Sareveth had never seen him stand before. Still, weight forward, like something that had decided it was not moving. "You should really put those down," he was telling the 2 Drevithi agents. His voice was remarkably even. "I'm not going to let you past me, and your friend there found out that I don't go down easy. You shoot me with those, I'm going to fall on top of you. I'm 200 pounds. That's going to hurt." The Drevithi exchanged a glance. Sareveth recognized the calculation in it, the alien working out whether this small, soft, unarmed creature was actually a threat or simply suicidal. What they didn't understand, what most people didn't understand, because humans had been in galactic space for only 60 years and still occupied the peculiar social role of novelty turned useful, was that the question was not mutually exclusive. "Marcus," she said. He turned his head, just slightly, keeping his eyes on the agents. "Your Majesty." A pause. "Glad you're here. Are my children unharmed?" "Yes." No hesitation. Got between them fast as I could when it started. Took one of them down with the urn before they could line up a shot. The other 2 decided I wasn't worth 2 bolts. A slight roughness entered his voice. They were wrong. Sareveth looked at her eldest daughter, Vethera, who was 17 and had her mother's eyes. Vethera looked back at her, tight-faced and careful, and gave a single nod. They were unharmed. All 4. Sareveth's count confirmed it. She straightened. She rolled her neck. Something settled in her, cold and absolute. I am Queen Sereveth Orithvel of the Seventh Throne, she said to the two Drevithi agents. Her voice filled the domed room the way her voice was trained to fill spaces, completely, with no room left for anything else. You have entered my home. You have threatened my children. You have harmed my staff. Her claws extended, and she did not retract them. You have a choice. You can surrender to me now, and the laws of court conduct will determine your fate. Or you can raise those weapons, and I will determine it myself. The silence stretched. The first agent lowered his stunner, then the second. Afterward, when the palace guards had swarmed the inner hall, and the Drevithi agents were restrained, and her children were wrapped in her arms in a tangle of limbs and soft crying, and the particular chaos of a family rediscovering itself, Sereveth found a moment. Marcus was seated in the corridor outside, a medic working on the cut above his eye. He had his forearms braced on his knees, and he was looking at nothing in particular with the expression of a person coming carefully down from somewhere very high. She sat beside him. He startled slightly, then settled. You stayed, she said. He blinked. Of course. You could have run. The agents breached the inner hall. You are household staff. There was no protocol that required you to. They were going to shoot the kids. He said it simply, like it was not a complicated sentence. I wasn't going to let them do that. Sereveth studied him. She had learned, over 14 months, to read human faces better than most Valorians, to understand the flatness of the features, the subtle signals that were all compressed into a narrow band of expression compared to her own people's broader emotional palette. She read his face now. She found what she was looking for, and it was not heroism, exactly, and it was not performance. It was just certainty. The bedrock, foundational, unquestioned certainty of a creature that had decided, somewhere before conscious thought caught up, that there was only one acceptable answer. The Drevithi made an error, she said quietly. Yeah, they did. They knew Valorian court structure. They knew the layout of this wing. They planned this carefully. She paused. They did not account for you. People don't usually. He almost smiled. The medic finished with his eye and stepped back. Marcus touched the bandage carefully. We've been in space for 60 years. Everyone still thinks of us as the short species that needs help carrying things. Not everyone, Sereveth said. He looked at her. I have read the Terran histories, she said. I know what your species does when someone threatens what is yours. She let a moment pass. I know what you did tonight was not exceptional, by your own standard. I know that in your history, ordinary people, farmers, teachers, servants, have done what you did, in dark moments, because there was a child in front of them and nothing else mattered. Marcus was quiet. I think, Sereveth said carefully, that we have underestimated what it means to bring humans into our homes. He huffed a breath, not quite a laugh, but close to one. We do tend to get attached. Yes. She stood. Come. My children will want to see you. He stood too, a little stiff, and followed her back toward the inner hall. At the threshold, he paused. For what it's worth, he said, I'd do it again. Sereveth glanced back at him. The crimson emergency lights had faded to the ordinary gold of the palace lamps, and in that light, he looked very human, tired and bandaged and quite ordinary. I know, she said. That is precisely what makes you extraordinary. She led him inside. Her children, who had been waiting, rushed him with the complete lack of dignity that children reserve for the people they truly love, and Marcus, her human servant, her household manager, the person who read stories in an interesting alien accent, caught them all, laughing, and held on.